Welcome to Get Centered. In this episode 2, we're going to talk about T&E strategies that bring your stakeholders together. Why is this important? It's important because stakeholders like travelers want much better tools for booking and for expense. And stakeholders in finance want much better controls. Both of these stakeholder groups have come to expect much better tech than they've ever had access to in the past. I'm Louise Miller, co-founder of Results Plus, a consulting firm and women-owned business focused on thought leadership in the T&E ecosystem. Center is a software company focused on reinventing expense management with a card-centric approach. On this second episode of Get Centered, I'd love to welcome Monique Rochard-Marine. Monique works with a medical devices company, and she oversees the travel and expense policy, as well as travel and meeting services. Monique, welcome, and please tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the priorities in your program today.
Hi, Louise. Thank you so much for having me today. As you shared, I work for a medical devices company and I head up global travel meetings and events. And as part of that, I also help spearhead the policies. So my company actually just divested from a larger company about 3 years ago. And one of my roles was to ensure that during that transition, we changed our policy to match the new needs of our new organization. So I created our travel, payments, expense, meetings programs from the ground up. And a few things that we needed to keep, thought on was that we're a highly regulated industry and compliance is a key focus area for us. So controls were very, very critical. And we also wanted to put emphasis on user experience, which is equally important to us.
That's great. Thank you. Can you share a little bit about some of the policy considerations the stakeholders had top of mind in areas such as diversity and inclusion as well?
Yeah, so the company that I work for now has a huge global footprint. So definitely diversity and the generations that we span was critical as we thought through the tools and the process for the new, policy revamp. The first thing that we needed to do, though, was to get alignment from the top. So we needed to ensure that our leadership team understood why we needed a policy refresh. And once we did that, it was very easy to then figure out who the stakeholders were across the business. So ensuring that we had partnerships across all regions so that we fulfill that diversity and inclusion piece, but also understanding how the little changes would make a bigger impact. So that kind of, wave impact. We wanted to make sure we understood those so we didn't have any gaps when we rolled out the policy. Now we did this, using the strategy and we took 3 months to roll it out, which I think is incredible because it normally takes about 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, that's a great success story. Let's bring Suzanne Boyan into our conversation. Suzanne, welcome as well to Get Centered episode 2. We're glad to have you here. Suzanne works with a large professional services firm and also oversees meetings and travel. Suze, tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the priorities in your program today.
Thanks, Louise. Happy to be here on the second episode. My name is Suzanne Boyan, and I am the Global Travel and Meetings Manager for ZS, a professional service firm, as you stated, based in the Chicagoland area. Transformation is at the core of our business. That's what we help our clients do, and it has to be something that I'm focused on as well as my team. So remaining agile in the marketplace and always keeping our pulse on new trends.
We talked about the issue affecting your program and your transformation in terms of what your colleagues see out there in terms of challenges with pricing and challenges with different channels, whether it's your travel agency or .com sites. Tell us a little bit about the challenges your stakeholders and travelers are seeing with pricing and content.
Absolutely. There's a lot of different ways to consume content, and they are very used to consuming it in their personal lives one specific way. And so the core goal of our program is to make sure that we're getting them the content, the fares, the schedules that they need at the right time, at the right place. So really looking at our TMC and our OBT and ensuring that they can get it through there. But we also set up direct connects with some airlines so that they can get it through the direct airlines if needed.
That's great. In the first episode of Get Centered, Stephen Van Overmeiren and I talked about credibility in the T&E program. And I think some of the points you just made are central to that, because the stakeholders are asking all of us, why do I find a better fare somewhere else outside of the tools that you have set up for me? And we know that tools are becoming more and more modern, and we're able to get more content through modern platforms, right? So tell us a little bit, Suze, how do you try to bridge that gap and bring that credibility to the program in such a chaotic environment?
Yeah, I think you and Stephen were exactly right. And that's exactly what I'm hearing at our industry events, both face-to-face and virtually, is ultimately, this is a big problem. Our people are able to find the content, and if we don't bring it to them in the preferred channels, it all of a sudden becomes outside of our purview, right? So we need to meet our travelers where they are and ensure that we're giving them the right tools at the right time to make good choices on behalf of our companies.
Let's shift gears a moment. We've also talked a bit about payments and how the transformation in payments is happening. But the reality of your programs today and the complexity you deal with payments is an important point. Monique, tell us a little bit about how payments work in your travel and meetings program, and what are the top challenges you see?
Well, I have to say that I'm not happy about payments and the way it works right now. I think it is very disjointed. The challenge in travel and meetings is there's so many different modalities of payments, from invoicing to virtual payments to credit card payments. And if you don't have the right tools or infrastructure within your company and they're not integrated, you're going to have risk, in terms of fraud, waste, not full visibility into the spend. And that is what I'm seeing right now, which is why I would hope that there's eventually a platform that can be a one-stop shop for all of these payment systems, where you can see everything from start to finish, from the request, the purchase order, the invoice, the payment, the status. I don't think we're there yet. And it's a huge challenge for me because we have too many different systems that are not plugged into each other. And that's just a big risk, for fraud and waste.
All great points. And I think we're all excited that we see rays of hope on this topic. We are seeing more automated payments and payment programs that are baked into the process. But what we need is for it to work for transient and meetings, and for it to work globally. So Suzanne, given your expertise and the big global footprint that your company has, how much longer do you think it'll be till we can get these kind of solutions at scale across all these different expense types?
It's a great question. And I wish I had a crystal ball. I think we're about 3 to 5 years out, if I had to put a number on it. Look, 10 years ago, people were really excited about integrations, right? And it was wonderful. I think those are still important, but integrations fail. And that's when people feel really, they feel the corporate travel ecosystem not working for them. And that's what causes people to book outside the program. So it is where we need to go. It is the ultimate end goal. And technology is moving much quicker than it was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But 3 to 5 feels right to me because we're not there yet.
Yeah, you mentioned technology, and let's wrap up with 2 hot topics that I know we 3 agree are very central to that progress and that technology that our users and stakeholders expect. Generative AI and, environmental sustainability are 2 things that are very topical. Monique, you and I have been part of some other education sessions together where we talked about how we are early adopters of using generative AI in our business practices. Can you just give 1 or 2 examples of how you've used generative AI to make your team and your own work more efficient?
Yeah, I keep saying this all the time. Generative AI is here today. If you don't have it, you're going to be left behind. I embrace generative AI. I use it almost daily for both my personal and professional life. In my professional life, I use it for crafting messages. I use it as a research assistant almost to help me with very mundane tasks. Instead of going to Google and having to collate everything, I can easily go to Copilot or ChatGPT. And I think that it is evolving to create amazing tools that can be used in so many different businesses, including finance. We do have tools built into, platforms for travel as well to identify fraud, identify, when we're submitting identical expenses. So it's already in the works and working, but I do see it evolving even more to make it even more efficient and help us with our productivity.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. There's generative AI, which we as end users tend to touch every day, but just as important, if not more important, is the AI, which tends to be more machine learning baked into the tools that we use. So it's exciting to see that happening. Suze, why don't we talk for a moment about environmental sustainability and how we're bringing that into travel and meetings, because it felt like before the pandemic, pretty much nothing was happening. And now, the past few years, we're starting to see companies actually embrace this concept and bake it into their travel and expense program.
Absolutely. And we can't do anything without data, right? We have to know what our environmental impact is, and that requires the data to quantify the miles, to quantify the hotel room nights. So we are actively looking at this data through our expense management and through our travel data and combining them together. We've partnered with sustainable companies that help us measure and audit. It's vitally important because we're a consulting firm. Our people are our product. We have to travel in order to make an impact in society and the world. But we can do that sustainably. And so we can make choices that are more sustainable as long as we have the right data and the correct data.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to wrap up today. Having a unified platform that we can embrace the data from the very beginning of the process in booking and shopping all the way through to payment and expense. That's really the magic of what Center does. So in episode 2, we'd like to say that we've brought to light some things for our listeners to think about today. And we look forward to episode 3. And right now, I'd like to turn it over to Amy Padgen, who heads up the travel ecosystem here at Center. And she's going to touch on just a few of these points as we wrap up today. Thanks, Amy. Over to you.
Thanks, Louise, Monique, and Suze for that insightful conversation. You all brought into focus several T&E strategies that can bring your stakeholders together through really great technology. There are a few trends that I'm seeing in this space that Center is working on addressing. The first is consumerization of travel. There is a universal expectation for no-friction software with a consumer-like interface to support all generations of travelers. A downstream impact of the consumerization of travel is another trend, which is supplier direct booking behavior, and it's on the rise. And we know that this can have a significant impact on managed travel programs. Finally, one more trend that I'd like to leave you with that you can incorporate into your travel strategy is AI. I mean, what conversation would it be without the mention of AI, right? So at Center and with other travel partners, we've all long talked about leveraging machine learning and AI to support spend auditing. Well, at Center, we're also thinking about real-time policy management. I mean, imagine not having to update your policy annually. Instead, AI ML identifies patterns from spend behaviors and updates dynamically as needed. This is exactly the sort of innovation that drives Center. We believe in investing in innovation that impacts your day-to-day, delivering smart and connected technology and tools supporting services and programs that bring us one step closer to a delightful corporate travel experience and touchless expensing. Louise, Monique, Suze, thanks again for a great conversation. Until next time.